the next few days. So Wednesday, on the whole, looking drier and sunnier for many of us, with any rain mostly confined to the far north of Scotland, and temperatures rising across the whole of the UK. We're talking by the middle of the week, temperatures into the low or even mid-30s in the south, mid to high 20s for...
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. There is a collision on the M25 clockwise near Waltham Abbey. The M2 westbound near Maidstone is also affected by a collision causing slow traffic. A collision is reported on the M23 southbound near Reigate. The A610 eastbound is closed after the M1 junction 26 near Nottingham. Lane closures are causing delays on the M62 eastbound near Bury and on the M6 northbound near Coventry. In Scotland, the A86 is closed in both directions at Newtonmore near Lagan Road due to roadworks. And on the trains, cross-country and East Midlands railway services are disrupted at Ely with a reduced service in place. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
What would you do with £60,000 cash? What would you do with a real gold bar? Well, both have to be won in our Golden Summer celebration. First, there's £60,000 in tax-free cash to bolster your bank account this year. Plus, we'll also give you a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to
stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good evening to you. Welcome to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dobby. Coming up on tonight's show.
It's coming home! It's coming home! It's coming! Come on, England! I love you! I love you!
Yes, of course, last night was heroic for England, but huge World Cup drama has overshadowed the win as President Donald Trump has now admitted to lobbying Gianni Infantino, that's the FIFA president, to get a US red card overturned tonight. I'll be speaking to the one, the only big Sam Allardyce about all the latest from the biggest football competition on earth and England's chances of going up against Erling Edgar Haaland. And also tonight,
these are very tiny islands in the middle of the Indian Ocean where no one actually goes. So I don't think we should be too worried about losing that bit of territory. We're probably losing more to tidal erosion in the east coast than that.
Yes, today it emerges that Andy Burnham is on the cusp of following Keir Starmer's lead and surrendering the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. We'll be going live to the islands themselves, to the Chagos, to speak to the First Minister, Miss Lee Mandarin. And also tonight,
all that remains in question is whether the government has the will to act. If so, then we will be happy to support them. If it does not, people across this country will rightly ask, as they already are, whether this is a government that can really keep the British people safe.
Yes, as the Pakistani pedophile Shabir Ahmad and also the rape gang ringleader now roams free from prison. The government has now been grilled to get the criminal deported back on the first plane to Islamabad. I'll be speaking to the Tory MP leading the charge, Katie Lamb, in just a moment's time. And finally tonight. Yes, an unusual story. An NHS physiotherapist has revealed he used to be a Taliban jihadi bomber before ditching his beliefs and smuggling himself to Britain back in 2002. His memoir warns of young British Muslims who now idolise an Islamic caliphate. Would you be concerned if your NHS practitioner was a former suicide bomber? That's all to come, but first, here's your headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Good evening. Top stories from the GB newsroom. Donald Trump has confirmed he personally asked FIFA's president to review a red card ban given to US striker Folarin Balogun. Balogun was sent off after a VAR review for stepping on another player's ankle during the USA's win over Bosnia, leading to an automatic one-match ban, but FIFA has since reversed that decision. UEFA has warned the president's involvement has crossed a red line and undermines the integrity of the game, but Trump is adamant it wasn't a foul, describing the red card as an injustice. The government has admitted it stepped in to prevent FIFA bringing forward England's match against Mexico last night, saying the move would have given their opponents an unfair advantage. It's understood Sir Keir Starmer used diplomatic channels to oppose the match being moved to 7 p.m. on Sunday night to give England more time to adjust to the altitude at the Azteca Stadium. England will take on Norway in the World Cup quarter-finals on Saturday after beating Mexico 3-2. The Defence Secretary is warning Russia's so-called reckless actions run the risk of triggering an escalation in tensions with NATO. A Russian spy plane repeatedly dropped tracking devices near the UK's flagship aircraft carrier, HMS Prince of Wales, in a suspected attempt to harass the warship in the Norwegian Sea. 2 RAF 35 fighter jets were deployed in response. Senior doctors across England have voted in favour of strike action over pay and pensions. 76% of consultants who are members of the British Medical Association say they'd be willing to take industrial action within the next 12 months. The BMA says the action won't go ahead if the government addresses years of pay erosion. And ITV has agreed to sell its media and entertainment business to Sky for £1.6 billion in one of the biggest takeovers in British broadcasting history. The agreement, which is subject to shareholder and regulator approval, will create a major competitor to the global streaming giants Netflix and Amazon Prime Video. The deal includes the ITVX platform and ITV's free-to-air channels. You're up to date for now. I'll have more in an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Bethany. Now, welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, last night saw a monumental, majestic win for England against Mexico. The Cheats in the Azteca will now face Norway in the World Cup quarter-final. But in the last hour, the whole tournament has been rocked by the huge drama. President Donald Trump has admitted to lobbying the FIFA president Gianni Infantino in order to get a USA red card overturned. Now, FIFA have confirmed that Belgium's protests have now been rejected and the USA striker Folarin Balogun will be able to play in the next game after his ban was deferred. It's all kicking off, and that's not even on the pitch. Now, let's speak now to the legend, Big Sam Allardyce. Big Sam, it's a pleasure to have your esteemed company as ever, Sam. Before we get to the politics and Donald Trump, let's just pause to enjoy the magnificent victory last night. Big Sam, you have to admit, every player was a legend. The management played a blinder. It was superb.
Well, I mean, not that we wanted it, but it had everything you want in a game of football in terms of excitement, in terms of biting your nails, nervous energy. Are we going to make it with 10 players? Are we not? Some great performances on the pitch, and a very good performance by the managers and the coaches on choosing them when to change the formation, when to put the subs on, how to defend the lead that they've got. And I think they came across a huge challenge, not just on the field by the Mexican players feigning injury, trying to get people sent off, trying to get more penalties. Every little touch or every little contact was rolling over in agony as if they'd been shot. And I think that they overcame all that brilliantly in the end. And of course, the substitutions to just make sure that the opposition didn't score late on. And then, of course, the referee deciding that he'll play a huge amount of time to see if he can give Mexico that last chance to get the equaliser, which I'm glad to say that didn't happen. But individual performances for me, best that has happened in the game, best that's happened in the World Cup, and the selection and the substitutions were spot on, and the attitude of the players was absolutely magnificent.
Now, some people are saying it's our best performance since 1966. I don't remember that, but I do remember Euro 96, that 4-1 against Holland, that 5-1 against Germany in Munich. But Big Sam, it was astonishing. And moving forwards, last night we beat an entire nation. We beat Mexico in Mexico City at the Azteca. We overcame the hand of God. We overcame the curse of history. Now we've only got to beat one man, Haaland. Can we do it on Saturday night?
Oh, I watched him yesterday. I think he's just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, there's times when you watch the game and think that he's not involved that much, and then all of a sudden, the slightest sniff he has, he produces. And I think that's the biggest concern. Obviously, there's a lot of other good players in the Norway team. Don't get me wrong; they were very surprising on the quality of football they played against Brazil. But that man is the man that finishes it off, the man that puts the energy into getting the right places, uses his outstanding talent to score a goal. Of course, we have one of those in Harry Kane. So we're matching Norway up by a fantastic goal scorer if and when you can create a chance for him.
Now, Big Sam, I am but a mere mortal. I drink beer and think I'm an expert. You are an expert. Surely, though, our defenders in the Premier League, they play against Haaland week in, week out. They'll have the measure of him better than Brazil.
Absolutely. I think that we've got the opportunity to study the players, know him extremely well. And I think he needs to be a real main focus whenever Norway get in their final third. I suppose the good thing to consider from a tactical point of view is limit the amount of times they can get in the final third against England. So maybe a high press is a much better tactic in that game than it would be against Mexico. That of course is up to Thomas Tuchel to work that out for the game. But the farther away you keep Haaland from the goal, the better chance you've got, obviously, of him not scoring. But I'm looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to that. Norway is a winnable match on the way we played last night. So if we get everything going on the right direction and all the players play to their very best, then we have a great chance. And the only thing you can guard that you can't guard against is what happens with the referees on the day, on whether the right decision goes for you or against you.
And Big Sam, that brings me neatly on to our next point. An incredible situation today. Donald Trump admitting at a press conference at the White House that he directly telephoned Gianni Infantino and lobbied him and had that red card overturned against following Balogun. Have you ever heard of anything so incredible in your entire football career, Big Sam?
This is unacceptable. This is a scandal. This is one of the biggest scandals in football. I think that to allow politics in the game is something that we all try to avoid and resist. We're not allowed to talk about it whenever we're talking on football. If I'm on the radio and I'm even doing my podcast, politics cannot come into our comments. As to steer clear from the beautiful game. This is an interfering politician who knows nothing about football and is just trying to manipulate his power, and he's changed the head of FIFA by making that decision. And in his position, he should have point blanked it, because he's undermined the complete disciplinary system. Now, England should put a protest in for a review on their sending off. And anybody that gets sent off between now and the next game should put a review in that gets reviewed and that gets overturned. We can't just sit back and allow that this just happens and we do nothing about it. I'm pleased that UEFA put in a complaint and said this is undermining the integrity of the game 100% as far as I'm concerned.
Big Sam, I have to ask you, Gianni Infantino, he's a man who's appeared very comfortable in the limelight, very comfortable being a celebrity. Are his days numbered? Should he go?
It would be good that he resigned himself, but I don't think he will.
OK, thank you, Big Sam. Very diplomatic there, as ever. Thank you for your time, Big Sam Allardyce. We'll enjoy the game. Thank you for your expertise tonight here on GB News. Superb stuff. Thank you very much. Let's get to my panel now. Former Reform UK Communications Director Gawain Towler and GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Let's stick to the politics, lads. I want to talk to you, Gawain. Donald Trump has made an extraordinary intervention. He admitted he didn't even know what a red card was. Why on earth is he poking his beak into the beautiful game?
Because he's an American. He wants America to win. I don't approve of it, but he's very much like the British were in the 19th century. Not over football. I don't know anything about football, but that sort of attitude, big powers win, and he is a power player. We've seen it in his politics for the last number of years. This is how he performs, so it's hardly surprising. What's surprising is FIFA bent over. That's the surprise. Not that Trump didn't. I'd expect Trump to try this sort of thing, but what surprises me is that FIFA bent over.
The trouble with this, Nigel Nelson, is as Big Sam Allardyce said there, every club now will appeal every decision. Every politician will start wading in, poking their nose in. Keir Starmer could even appeal against England's defender being sent off last night. And that's a problem. You've got total anarchy.
Yes, you have. And the whole point is that football should be left to the sporting fraternity and the politicians should stay out of it. But, I mean, the way that Trump actually intervened was absolutely astonishing. That here we have the most powerful man in the world, a sporting event, albeit taking place in his own country, and suddenly he's calling into question the way that it's being played, the way that things are happening. I mean, I don't know much about football like Gawain, but at least I know more than President Trump, or at least I know what a red card is. But Trump seems to have just gone in with two big feet.
He's gone in with his studs up, hasn't he?
Yeah, basically.
And what's more, the thing is, it's not that he does it. We'd expect him to do this sort of thing because he is America first. That's what he does all the time.
I have to say, it took me by surprise. That I mean, I expect him to invade Venezuela. I expected him to do something mad in Iran.
No,
the idea of actually getting involved in a football,
down the line
football competition
but what is
amazing.
Amazing is FIFA bent.
Yeah.
FIFA should have turned around and said no.
Yeah, but they didn't. And
that's
they have
actually the more surprising thing.
They have tilted to Donald Trump's wind. And when Donald Trump said the referee's decision to red card the player was horrible, although I didn't know what a red card is.
But there's something almost charmingly naive about the way he is entirely upfront about what he does. Other politicians might do it, but they'd never tell the world. But I think the thing that made me laugh most of all about what happened today is Sepp Blatter coming out and complaining about corruption in football. Quite the most remarkable thing I've heard in a long time.
Indeed. Gentlemen, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Gawain Towler and Nigel Nelson. Coming up in just a moment's time, as it emerges today that Andy Burnham is on the cusp of following Keir Starmer's lead and surrendering the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. We'll be going live to the Chagos Islands themselves to speak to the First Minister there, Miss Lee Mandarin. That's next.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, reports published today suggest that our Prime Minister-in-waiting, Andy Burnham, will continue the widely controversial giveaway of the Chagos Islands, and of course that's expected to cost taxpayers around £35 billion and rising. Multiple sources close to Labour's likely next leader claim he is heavily influenced by Sir Keir's National Security Advisor, Jonathan Powell. And yes, that would be the same Jonathan Powell who once said this.
These are very tiny islands in the middle of the Indian Ocean where no one actually goes. So I don't think we should be too worried about losing that bit of territory. We're probably losing more to tidal erosion in the east coast than that.
Incredible. And indeed, the very same man who orchestrated the entire surrender deal. So, can the Jugosians expect to get a fair hearing from a Prime Minister advised by him? I'm delighted now to be joined in the studio in Westminster by the Conservative peer and Guido Fawkes publisher Lord Kempsell, as well as my panel, Reform UK former comms director Gawain Towler and GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Lord Kempsell, may I start with you? If we expected a change of mood from Andy Burnham, the Chagosians will be very, very disappointed.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, Andy Burnham has come in trying to define himself against Keir Starmer and his legacy, totally understandably, correctly. And it turns out that as soon as he starts developing policy, he's going to wholesale import the total disaster of the Chagos deal that really torpedoed Keir Starmer's entire foreign policy position. I mean, this deal is so bad, not only because it actually costs more than most people think. I make the cost around 47 billion, and that's an estimate that's been underlined by the Taxpayers Alliance. It's also the security implications. And if Andy Burnham thinks he's going to reset the UK's relationship with the US, which is sorely needed, you know, this is a very, very bad way to get off to that mission, because I can assure you that in the White House, there's total and comprehensive opposition to this deal. It was one of the main reasons why President Trump, frankly, started speaking out in public in a very difficult way for Keir Starmer. And who can blame the Americans for that? They used the base at Diego Garcia to park their Air Force bombers there. It's a relationship that's existed between the UK and the US for decades. And now we have the prospect of another Prime Minister who even says he's focused on Manchesterism. Well, this is Mauritiusism, because all he's doing is abolishing the sovereign debt of Mauritius, appropriating British taxpayers' money for nothing in return apart from leasing the base that we already have sovereignty over. And that's before you get into the moral and ethical case about the way that the government and Labour has treated the Chagosians who call these islands their home, many of whom have served in the British Armed Forces and have been paying tax in this country for decades and are loyal citizens. They don't want to be run by a third country, which is Mauritius. It's never had sovereignty over the Chagos archipelago in its history. So this is a completely baseless claim, and I think it's a political disaster for Andy Burnham in waiting. And if he brings the deal back in the way that's being mooted, I'm afraid he's going to meet the same end as Keir Starmer met. And that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to campaign against it.
Looking ahead to the broader political challenge facing Andy Burnham, a lot of them are still the same. Chagos, the same problem with Donald Trump. A summit tomorrow in Turkey. NATO, once again, Donald Trump saying pay 5% or face severe consequences. Big tech. We're seeing Palantir being kicked out of the NHS, taxes on Amazon, digital taxes. Do you think Donald Trump might go even further against Andy Burnham than he did against Keir Starmer?
Well, a couple of weeks ago in the Oval Office, when the President was asked whether he knows who Andy Burnham is, he said, I know that he's a mayor of a town and that he's very liberal. So that's the basis from which Andy Burnham's coming, and he's got to reverse that perception by the President. And this is completely the wrong way to do it by bringing back the Chagos deal. It's the most hated policy in DC. It's been undermining the US-UK relationship, and I just think it's bad for the transatlantic alliance. Now, more broadly, Andy Burnham, you know, in our estimation, has made more than £250 billion so far of unfunded spending promises. And this is the key issue that I don't think is being talked about enough. He can lay out his narrative vision. We all support the idea of devolving more power to local communities across the country. I think it's a great thing that we're going to get a Prime Minister from the north of England who is passionate about investing across the country, not just in London. Everybody agrees on that. But how is he going to pay for it? Because his main plank of his policy so far in terms of spending commitments is to spend £100 billion on renationalising the water industry. And you know, this is absurd economics. We have gilts at this country running at nearly 5%, which is global financial crisis levels. He does not have the money to fund his spending commitments. So it's completely non-credible and non-reality based. Okay. And, you know, if you add £47 billion to that of the Chagos deal, you're just going to completely blow the balance sheet.
Nigel Nelson, let's bring you in now. A lot of people are looking for the first whiff of the direction of travel of international politics under Andy Burnham, and this looks like more of the same old surrender.
Well, in a sense it is, because nothing actually about Chagos has changed since Keir Starmer was there. So we had a situation back in 2022 where the American government begged us to do this deal. That was the previous administration. President Trump approved it back in May 2025. In January, he opposed it. In February this year, he approved it again. A few weeks later, he said, no, we can't go ahead unless the Americans say we can. The problem comes back to the Chinese. If we don't do a deal, and if international courts rule that we are effectively an occupying power, that would give the Chinese an excuse to start moving into the area.
Nigel, you're an intelligent guy, and this argument's beneath you. We know that there's nothing that China wants more than to have sovereignty over the Chagos Islands, or to use, frankly, a Chinese puppet state like Mauritius to exert its influence in that vital region. And we know that this is in the interests of the Chinese government, because as soon as the deal was supposedly agreed by the UK and Mauritius, China sent its ambassador to Port Louis in Mauritius to praise the Mauritian government for doing so. So I don't accept Keir Starmer's position, and nobody really does with their head screwed on, that this is somehow a move that's in defence of the UK against China. More broadly, I think you have to kind of deal with and answer the question, are you happy for the Chagosians, who consider this land to be their home, who have supported UK sovereignty for decades, to be completely ignored in this process as the way that Labour has done so far?
The problem with the Chagosians was they don't agree amongst themselves exactly what they want, which is why they couldn't be represented at the talks. I agree with you. I think that it would have been great if the Chagosians were represented.
Are you aware that in this country, in the UK, not everybody agrees with each other? And yet we're represented in international fora. But the British people do not all support the Prime Minister.
No,
it's
I know.
Amazing to discover.
We're talking about a number of Chagosians in the UK, a number in the Seychelles, a number in Mauritius. They are dotted all over the place, and they don't agree with each other.
Yes, however, you now have Chagosians living on the Chagos Islands.
A handful of them, yeah.
Yeah, but they are Chagosians living on the Chagos Islands. What are you going to do? Throw them off their islands? Treat them like some sort of colonial dirt?
No, I don't think we should. We behaved appallingly back in the 1960s.
So why do we
remove them there?
We agree, we behaved appallingly. The Church of England actually supported the Chagosians' right to go back.
What we're talking about is how we preserve Diego Garcia. It gives us
we give it away.
Gentlemen, final word, if we could, to Lord Cantor.
Well, what happened in the 60s, you know, the UK government has paid compensation multiple times to those people, and it's apologised multiple times on the record for what it did. But the sovereignty issue is the key point to focus on. Those islands have been under continuous British sovereignty for decades. They're a core part of our security relationship. And Nigel, you have to answer whether you're willing to spend £47 billion of taxpayers'
That figure
money.
is ridiculous, by the way.
It's not at all.
You're working that figure on the basis of what it would be in 99 years' time with inflation built in.
But that's the cost of the lease.
Yes, but it's not 47 billion now. That's what it would come to. A pound was worth £54 back in the 1920s.
That's not how the Treasury works. You factor that spending commitment into the budget, and
it's not spending now. We're not spending 47 billion now.
So, but my view is we shouldn't be spending £1 to give money to Mauritius. We should spend it here in the UK, where people sorely need it to improve their public services.
Gentlemen, we have that over there. A superb debate. Thank you very much indeed, Lord Kemsall, of course, and also Nigel and Gawain. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, coming up in just a moment's time, as the Pakistani paedophile and rape gang leader Shabir Ahmed now roams free from prison. The government has now been grilled to get the criminal deported and back on the first plane to Islamabad. And we're speaking to the Tory MP leading the charge in a moment, and that is Katie Lamb.
Hello again and welcome along to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A warm night to come for all of us. A lot of cloud initially through the night and first thing on Tuesday, but fairly widely we're going to see drier, clearer and warmer weather spread north over the next few days. Initially we do have some weather fronts toppling in over high pressure to affect parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England. So thicker cloud here, outbreaks of rain. The more persistent rain, northern and western Scotland, dribs and drabs elsewhere. Cloud also arriving into western England, Wales, that cloud on the low side covering some of the hills. But wherever you are, whether you've got the clear spells, for example in the southeast of England, or the cloud elsewhere, 15 to 17 Celsius overnight. So a warm night for many of us. But it's a dreary start to the day on Tuesday with a lot of cloud for Scotland, outbreaks of persistent rain affecting the north and northwest of Scotland. More patchy rain through the central belt into southern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, particularly towards the north and the west. Northern England, 1 or 2 spots of rain, thicker cloud here first thing, and some patchy cloud for Wales and the west of England, but that's going to clear reasonably quickly through the morning with widespread sunny skies developing for the southern half of the UK. So for the Midlands, Wales, East Anglia, the south of England, hot and sunny once again with light winds. Further north, we do have again a lot of cloud for Northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, but brighter and drier for Northern Ireland and Northern England, temperatures reaching the low 20s. Any rain tending to be confined to the far north of Scotland. And the heat in the south is going to begin to spread north through the next few days. So Wednesday, on the whole, looking drier and sunnier for many of us, with any rain mostly confined to the far north of Scotland, and temperatures rising across the whole of the UK. We're talking by the middle of the week, temperatures into the low or even mid-30s in the south, mid to high 20s further north.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good. Neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dawdby. Now, here's a reminder of what's happened on my afternoon programme last Friday. Check this out. I've been banned off Reddit. I've been kicked off for breaking Rule 1, hate. Because I asked the Prime Minister in waiting, Andy Burnham, who's currently taking an Ask Me Anything session. I asked him if he'd deport the Pakistani paedophile Shabir Ahmed on day 1, and if not, why not? And look, I've been banned. Thank you, Jake, for making this. Wanted for crimes against woke by order of Reddit. There I am. I'm a wanted ban on the woke platform Reddit. Utterly absurd. And now I should say that my Reddit ban remains firmly in place even now. But the question of the Pakistani paedophile Shabir Ahmed's deportation remains an open question, because yesterday it emerged the Conservatives had drafted emergency legislation and even offered to the government to help undo the loophole that is currently blocking Ahmed's deportation. And today the Conservative MP Katie Lamb put this question to Labour in the House of Commons.
Victims were promised that when he got out of prison, he would be deported back to Pakistan. He's been released from prison, but now we are told that he will not be deported because of a provision in the 1971 Immigration Act. The idea that he might be allowed to stay in this country because of a clause in a decades-old law designed for a completely different time and context is not just absurd, but sickening. All that remains in question is whether the government has the will to act. If so, then we will be happy to support them. If it does not, people across this country will rightly ask, as they already are, whether this is a government that can really keep the British people safe.
It's worth pointing out the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood wasn't there today to face the music. Instead, here was the government's response.
I share her anger, and I share her concern too at the anger of the British people, who rightly expect that when foreign offenders break our laws, they're removed from our country. That's why we've made the removals to degrees that we have. I will look closely, as we always do, at all amendments and new clauses put forward by the opposition and all honourable and right honourable colleagues to legislation or other ideas as they come forward. As I say, in the context, I couldn't be clearer that all options are on the table at this stage.
And that was Alex Morris, the Home Office Minister, facing the music instead of Shabana Mahmood. It's the biggest political raging debate of our time. Nothing's getting done. We still have a Pakistani paedophile amongst us. When on earth will this terrible mess get sorted out? As we await to be joined by Katie Lamb, I'm joined by my panel in the studio, the former Reform UK Communications Director Gawain Towler and GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Gawain, let's start with you. Shabir Ahmed is an aberration of a human. He should be on the first flight back to Islamabad, but we can't do that. There's a loophole in the law. Does Katie Lamb have a point? Should parties work together to close this loophole and get him on the first flight back to Islamabad?
Yes, but it's not going to happen. The government says there's all options are on the table, and yet the one option they seem to be going for is to let him stay. There is a loophole. However, the government is happy to pass legislation to throw somebody out of the House of Lords just like that. So if they wished to, if they had the will, they could pass emergency legislation to fill this loophole. And you've got to remember, this man is not a British citizen. He is a Pakistani citizen. Under Pakistan law, they can't remove his citizenship. So there is absolutely no reason on God's green earth why we should not send him back to Pakistan, and fast.
Well, he tore up his Pakistani passport to try and avoid that.
Passport doesn't stop you being a citizen. I can tear up my passport. It doesn't stop me being British.
Gawain, let's get my guests in now. I'm waiting to get involved. It's Katie Lamb, of course, the Conservative MP for Weald of Kent, who asked that emergency question today. Katie Lamb, welcome to the show. This mess just goes on and on and on. Are you confident there could be a resolution in sight?
There is a potential resolution. The lack of confidence that we have is whether the government is willing to take it. I mean, you heard the minister today. He says all options are on the table, but you feel like shouting at these people, you are the government, you make the law. If the law is wrong, change the law. And there was no explanation for why they're not willing to do that.
So how could that law be changed? And why have you taken, let's face it, the unusual situation of being prepared to work with Labour to make sure that he's on the first flight out?
Well, there are lots of different ways that you can change the law. What we've suggested, what the Conservatives have suggested, and we've written and shared this suggestion with the government, a clause to say that you should remove the clause in the 1971 Immigration Act, which is also repeated in the 2007 Borders Act, which says that Commonwealth citizens that arrived before a certain time, before 1973, and who've lived in Britain for more than 5 years can stay indefinitely, can't be deported. Now, we think that that whole premise is wrong, that rule was made in a different time with a different group of people in mind, with no sense for these sorts of appalling crimes that might be committed many years later. But even if, which is not my position, you thought, well, we want to keep the rule in general, The government could lay a specific piece of emergency legislation tomorrow about this man. You know, if they don't want him to stay here, the idea that he is now free to roam the streets of Britain, the parole service said only 3 years ago that he still poses a serious risk to children. He is not a British citizen, he's a Pakistani national, and he needs to go. And there are all sorts of different ways that the government could change the law to do that, and we will support them.
So is your specific point, Katie Lamb, a supportive Attorney General could wield the power, but you don't think we have a supportive Attorney General in the shape of Lord Hermer?
Correct. So absolutely, a supportive and decisive Home Secretary and Attorney General and Prime Minister could change this tomorrow. They would, though, also have to be willing to face down human rights challenges, judicial review challenges, you know, unless and until the government is willing to fight and win every stage of this argument. They're not willing to do anything. They just keep saying, oh, well, we're looking at it. But there's nothing to look at. We already have all of the facts.
And Katie, the survivors of Shabir Ahmed have contacted me via intermediaries. They just cannot believe this monster is prowling the same neighbourhoods. They live in danger of themselves or their relatives bumping into him. What do you think it says to survivors, to the British public, that this guy is living in protected accommodation, is ostensibly being supported by the British taxpayer in a way the children he raped never got?
It's unspeakable. The fact that he was allowed to commit these crimes in the first place, the time that it took the various agencies of the state, the police, social services, not just in Rochdale, but across the whole country, to believe these children. The way that he acted throughout his trial, he's shown no remorse. He called these children as young as 12 prostitutes. You know, the idea that a 12-year-old could consent to sell sex for money, I think is foul. He said that the judge was a racist for sentencing him for these crimes. This man has no place in our country. These victims and survivors have been told that he was going to be deported. They have been lied to. And not just he, but nobody who was in the gang in Rochdale has been deported. People simply cannot understand how this is happening, and I am one of them. It's you can't get your head around it.
Now, Katie, I can hear the emotion in your voice. I think it's an emotion that's shared by a great many of our viewers and listeners. I sometimes think we've completely lost the plot. We don't know who we stand up for anymore.
The idea that this is generous even to call him a man, the idea that this criminal, that this creature is afforded this level of protection by the law when the children whose lives he tried to destroy are given no such respect, no such protection, no such coverage. I think it says really awful things about us as a country, and I don't believe that this is who we are.
Katie Lamb, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate your time. Katie Lamb, the Conservative MP for Weald of Kent. Thank you. Back to the panel, joined now by Reform UK's Communications Director, former Gawain Towler, and GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Gentlemen, I think just putting politics to one side if we can. Nigel Nelson, you would have to concur. Shabir Ahmed is a maggot. He needs to get out of the country. Sharpish.
Yes. I mean, I do. He does need to be deported. No question about that. The point here is how you go about doing it and if you can do it. As Katie said, that the 1971 law was designed for a different group of people, predominantly Ugandan Asians at the time, who had been expelled from their country and came over here. The government is looking at that, looking at plugging the loophole. It's got to be aware of any unintended consequences of a change in the law, because it's the government. It's easy for an opposition party to say, just do it. It's got to be looked at. But that's only half the battle. The main problem will be persuading Pakistan to take him back. We can put pressure on them. We can look at their visas. We can look at their international aid. We gave £133 million to them last year. But we can't force them to do it. It should be Begum in reverse, if you like, that we've left her stateless in Syria. We should have taken her back, but no one can force us to do so.
OK, gentlemen, before I come to you, Gawain, I want to play a clip, if I could, of a Labour parliamentarian, regular on the show, Graham Stringer, just to show the condemnation for Shabir Ahmed is entirely across the House. Let's play that clip.
Mr. Speaker, we can't call ourselves a civilised society while Shabir Ahmed is walking the streets of this country. I agree with the thrust of the Honourable Lady's question, but surely there is another approach to this to get him off the streets of our country, which is to put him back in prison and change the law that reduces the tariff for uncivilised wretches like this, so he can be put straight back in prison.
Gawain Taylor, people, that is Graham Stringer, a Labour parliamentarian, calling Shabir Ahmed a wretch and saying the only way to solve this, put him in prison now, then change the law and then deport him.
As Katie Lamb said, there are many ways of solving this. But what is astonishing is the Labour Party doesn't seem to wish to choose any of them. And there are good people on all sides of the House. Everybody, I think, do you agree? Nigel agrees. We all agree that this man should not be in this country. And it should not be beyond the wit of a government that's known this is coming up for a long time to have been ready and prepared to do something about it. They have chosen not to. It is an active choice to do nothing when there are so many options on the table. And you talk about unintended consequences of acting. Well, I suspect this whole thing is an unintended consequence of the first point you made, which was this was a piece of legislation designed for different times, different people, different age and different situation. This is the unintended consequence of that. And the purpose of a government is to legislate, particularly in a case like this, fast, decisively, and get rid of it. And what is the idea that he can't go back to Pakistan? Of course he can go back to Pakistan. There are tools, there are levers. We should use them.
OK, gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll have to leave it there. Gawain Taylor, Nigel Nelson, thank you again to Katie Lamb. Now, coming up next, an astonishing story. An NHS physiotherapist has revealed that he used to be a Taliban jihadi suicide bomber trainee before ditching his beliefs and smuggling himself to Britain in 2002. His memoir warns of young British Muslims who now idolise an Islamic caliphate. But guess what? A former Taliban bomber now works for the NHS. Should you be concerned? That's next.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. The heat will be building across Spain and Portugal. It won't be as widespread or as hot as what we previously had. Across Madeira and the Canaries, cloudy as we go through Tuesday, but across much of Portugal, into Spain, into France, a good deal of sunshine. Further towards the east, that's where we're going to see sunny spells and a few showers, but temperatures actually closer to the average for what we'd expect at this time of year. Otherwise, plenty of sunshine as we go through the week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Yeah, Cameron, Miriam, it's certainly feeling hot here today, 30 degrees, and it's only going to get hotter, of course, across the country. Many people feeling the heat as well. Those red weather warnings for extreme heat in place, saying that this heat could even cause a risk to life, urging people to take precautions. But spare a thought for people working in this heat, particularly those in kitchens. We can't come to the beach without a fish and chip shop. This is the Modern World Fish and Chip Shop in Brighton, and Ibram runs it. Ibram, just how hot is it inside your kitchen today?
It's an absolute scorcher, actually. It's okay. We're just about coping. We're taking precautions. We reduced one fry from 2 fries. We're down to 1. There's not much sales in food at the moment. It's mostly people trying to keep hydrated. Waters, soft drinks, ice creams, beers.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
the reason why Alex's head is a little bit sore this morning is because we are Trick Award winners.
Yes.
Again. For the 4th year in a row. We're absolutely delighted, aren't we? We're buzzing with this.
We are. And, yeah, I need some more sleep.
Listen to that voice. You sound like Orson Welles.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Hey, everybody. Got a very
Alex went
sultry voice today.
Yeah, you sound good. You sound good.
okay,
But you went for celebratory drinks last night, didn't you?
Yeah, you could put it that way.
Yeah.
You could put it celebratory
How's the
drinks.
head this morning?
Yeah, I think that the hangover's coming. Let's put it that way. Hangover is still due.
Oh, there you are. Look, there we
look.
are. GB News Breakfast winner. So it was in the news category yesterday, and we are absolutely delighted that you chose us because it is voted for by you.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, that is the question. Good morning to you both. It is very hot. Right now it's 25 degrees. Ordinarily it might be this temperature about midday, but no, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's 25 degrees and temperatures set to soar throughout the day into the mid-30s. If it gets higher than 35.1 degree today, then today will be the hottest day of the year. Many people forecasting that we could reach that threshold today. So that's one to look out for. But as you can see, many people keeping cool today. Somebody's here in the water. We've got people out to sea swimming as well, and many on the shoreline enjoying this hot weather, including John here. I can speak to now. John, thanks for joining us this morning on GB News. Have you been in the sea yet? How are you keeping cool?
Yeah, I went in the sea. We were down about 7 o'clock this morning. Literally dived straight in.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dorby. Now, an astonishing story to finish tonight's show. An NHS physiotherapist has revealed that he used to be a Taliban jihadi before smuggling himself to Britain back in 2002. Now, Maiwan Bani, in his new memoir, he admits to being a gun-toting teenage fighter who dreamt of nothing more than dying as a suicide bomber for the Taliban. But after ditching his beliefs, Bani boarded a flight to London assisted by people smugglers, and he was then heartbroken when the Taliban retook Afghanistan. He warns of young British Muslims with a utopian view of an Islamic caliphate. But Britain is lucky that Bani left his life of jihad behind. But does this show the ease with which anybody can illegally enter our country, even from former Taliban fighters, and get a job in the NHS? Let's open this up now to my panel, Gawain Towler and Nigel Nelson. And, of course, State of the Nation is up next. So, as usual, hoping interview like a vision. So, Jacob Rees-Mogg. Let's start with you, if I may, Nigel Nelson. Now, an interesting memoir has been penned by this individual who's seen the light. Delusions of Paradise, it's called. Escaping the life of a Taliban fighter. And I've debated this on my show earlier today with asylum seeker supporters who say that he should be accepted. He's turned his life around. But I put it to you, if an NHS worker is about to go anywhere near my Khyber Pass, I'd like to know if they used to work for the Taliban.
Well, it rather depends on whether you actually believe in redemption, whether you believe that someone can atone for past mistakes, which is what this guy seems to have done, and performing a pretty valuable service. I mean, obviously as a physiotherapist for a start of the NHS, but a valuable service to write a book which will act as a warning to the rest of us about exactly what happens when people are radicalised. So if you accept that he's turned a corner, that he's no longer a jihadist, there's no reason why he shouldn't pursue a career in this country, and if that is actually within the NHS, so be it.
Would you be equally as welcoming, I don't know, if he'd been a former far-right terrorist and suddenly was working in the NHS? I mean, the Liberal establishment
had
of the country...
Had he just written a book about it,
They want to cancel people for retweeting Tommy Robinson.
But had he been a far-right terrorist, and I discovered he was my physiotherapist, if I thought at the end of the day he'd renounced all that, he'd learnt from it, and he'd actually penned a book explaining what he'd learned from it, yes, I'd be perfectly happy with him messing about with my joints or whatever.
Go on, tell her.
I think... clearly, the fact that he's written this book is a good thing. However, He arrived illegally. We didn't know who he was. I'm sure he would have been picked up on the border if we knew he was a Taliban fighter at 16. But, of course, at 16, we don't believe anybody would be nasty at 16 because they're all nice, cuddly little young chappies. But they're not, are they? No, I think he arrived legally. How he got to go through the systems and end up in the NHS, I'm not entirely sure. I'm no doubt we'll find out more. But I mean, those details are actually quite important because we have seen, although this chap has written the way he has and talked the way he has, we have seen plenty of people in the NHS who sound as if and speak as if they're still in the Taliban, the way they hate on Jews and things of this sort. So while this chap may be decent now, he should not be here in the first place.
May I bring you in, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg? You're a Catholic, a Christian. You believe in redemption. You believe in the power to transform and be better. But this individual came into the country illegally, a trained jihadist with the sole intent of destructing the West. He slipped through the net and found redemption, but how many don't?
Yes, I think it's very serious. I do believe in forgiveness, and I believe in the sacrament of penance, and if people want to repent, that is open to them. But that's ultimately a spiritual activity rather than one of how do you practically run a country. And we've got to be very concerned that people who have been jihadists are getting into this country. That, I think, is the bigger point. Whether he has repented, whether he's given up, doesn't really matter. Jihadists have committed serious offences. They have been involved in killings. He wanted to be a suicide bomber. Has he suffered the temporal punishment that he ought to have done for that? Has he been through the courts? Many people who commit crimes repent, but they have to be tried properly first. And they also oughtn't to be able to get into this country easily. I mean, it does contrast with Miss Begum, who is a British citizen, who at 15 was essentially trafficked out of this country, who was raped, and who we will not allow back even though she's a British citizen, even though she is unlikely to be of any danger to us anymore. Whereas this man seemed to be able to get in, and now he says he's repented, so it's all right. I think we need to be very, very careful, but we need secure borders. We have got to stop allowing people like this coming into the country, because some of them won't have repented.
OK, it's Jacob. We've got a quick 30 seconds. What's on your menu tonight, sir?
Well, I'm going talking about the man you're standing in for. I'm doing extraordinarily well standing in for, and very often as well, I've noticed, one Nigel Farage. I've got a lot of time for Nigel. I think he's been a tremendously important figure in the right of politics, both with Brexit and with keeping the Tory party honest. But he does seem to be a little bit in the mire at the moment, so I'm going to discuss that with his biographer. But from a starting point of somebody who thinks Nigel Farage is a good thing, and the question then is the blob out to get him? Are they going to make him a martyr? Okay. And if they do, does it help rather than hinder him?
OK, superb. So that is up next. State of the Nation. I'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome along to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A warm night to come for all of us. A lot of cloud initially through the night and first thing on Tuesday, but fairly widely we're going to see drier, clearer and warmer weather spread north over the next few days. Initially, we do have some weather fronts toppling in over high pressure to affect parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England. So thicker cloud here, outbreaks of rain. The more persistent rain, northern and western Scotland, dribs and drabs elsewhere. Cloud also arriving into western England, Wales, that cloud on the low side covering some of the hills. But wherever you are, whether you've got the clear spells, for example, in the southeast of England, or the cloud elsewhere, 15 to 17 Celsius overnight. So a warm night for many of us. But it's a dreary start to the day on Tuesday with a lot of cloud for Scotland, outbreaks of persistent rain affecting the north and northwest of Scotland. More patchy rain through the central belt into southern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, particularly towards the north and the west. Northern England, 1 or 2 spots of rain, thicker cloud here first thing, and some patchy cloud for Wales and the west of England, but that's going to clear reasonably quickly through the morning with widespread sunny skies developing for the southern half of the UK. So for the Midlands, Wales, East Anglia, the south of England, hot and sunny once again with light winds. Further north, we do have, again, a lot of cloud for Northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, but brighter and drier for Northern Ireland and Northern England, temperatures reaching the low 20s. Any rain tending to be confined to the far north of Scotland. And the heat in the south is going to begin to spread north through the next few days. So Wednesday, on the whole, looking drier and sunnier for many of us, with any rain mostly confined to the far north of Scotland, and temperatures rising across the whole of the UK. We're talking by the middle of the week, temperatures into the low or even mid-30s in the south, mid to high 20s further.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're celebrating a golden summer with your chance to win a real gold bar. That's right, a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 could be yours. We're also going to make sure your finances are fabulous with £60,000 in tax-free cash. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation tonight.
I can't be bought. I can't be bullied. I've stood for the same principles for many, many decades.
Is reform in crisis after explosive revelations over the weekend that Nigel Farage has received money and security from a convicted criminal? Can reform come back from this bout of bad PR? And is Nigel Farage's continued popularity further proof that the right needs to unite? Also tonight.
Absolutely need to strengthen regulation in the social media space, especially when it comes to election time.
Is Labour abolishing free speech? The party's deputy leader has called for social media regulation akin to TV and radio during election campaigns, which in reality means more limits on online political debate. Is this about tackling misinformation or controlling opinions they don't like? Plus,
Westminster hasn't been working for people, and it hasn't been working for a very long time.
is Andy Burnham the Starmer continuity candidate, despite promising change?